Hey, I'm Rin. Welcome to my channel. Feixiao, huh? Let's go then. The Maryland's Claw, Feixiao, one of the 7 Arbiter Generals. I did wonder who was going to win that poll then. I genuinely thought that High Sealants would win, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Feixiao, the Vanquishing General, the Great General, the speedy, scary general from the Yao Qing. I don't really know what I'm talking about anymore. She actually has a great story that we can use for building a D&D character. Though this build might not be for every game out there, depending on how willing your DM is, some changes can be made to how one of the classes work. We can only hope, I guess. Anyway, no more spoilers here. Let's move on to the build itself. So, since there aren't any official fox races out there for me to use for this build, I went with Tabaxi instead, and it can be reflavored to be more fox-like in features. Yes, Kitsune is a very popular homebrew race that you can use in the place of Tabaxi, but at the same time, homebrew can be very tricky to work with at a D&D table, especially if you don't know the DM well enough and what they think about homebrew. Reflavoring a Tabaxi is probably the more safer option when it comes to these games. Tabaxis have an increase in their dexterity and their charisma, they have dark vision, better reflexes, and you can double your speed during combat. You also have cat claws, which will replace your usual unarmed strikes, as well as proficiencies in stealth and perception. Next up, I gave her multi-class between Blood Hunter and Fighter. As I stated before, I do want to reflavor the Blood Hunter class a bit, to give it the feel of what it means to be Feixiao and having her history. Before then though, I also want to state that I gave her 2 weapon fighting, because she uses 2 swords in combat, as well as a giant axe. And I also gave her the Blood Curse of the Marked, cause it gives the feel of a hunt kind of ability. I gave her the Rite of the Storm because there isn't a wind rite, sadly. But anyway, moving on from all of that, the subclass I gave her is the Order of the Lycan. You see where I'm going at with this, right? Instead of transforming due to your lycanthrope curse, so long as your DM will allow it, you stay the same as you are, but you still have the capabilities that are available to you if you have transformed. And instead of being infected by a curse, you were born with the affliction to begin with. And to be fair, the Borisons are pretty much werewolves. Just space werewolves. With this subclass you have advantages with perception checks when you're using your heightened hearing or smell. You also have the hybrid transformation ability, though you don't have to stick with actually transforming as I stated. You get a +1 to your melee damage rolls. You get resistance to bludgeoning, piercing or slashing damage from non-magical weapons that are not made of silver. And when you're not wearing heavy armor, you get a +1 to your AC. You can apply Crimson Rites to your unarmed attacks. You can use your dexterity instead of your strength for your unarmed strike rolls. And they can deal slashing damage, like your Tabaxi feature, but better. There's also the Bloodlust feature, where if your HP is lower than half your maximum, you will need to roll a saving throw to prevent yourself from flying into a frenzy and attacking random people. This frenzy lasts for only 1 turn, and you regain control afterwards. But it is there, and it sort of reminds me of what happened during the Lower Fu quest. Now for her fighter class, I gave her this mainly because I didn't want to go full Blood Hunter with her, cause she isn't really a Blood Hunter. She's a general first and foremost, and a talented martial artist, who relies on every form of herself to achieve her goal. So I gave her the Mariner fighting style to make her swimming and climbing speed equal to her normal one, as well as a +1 to her AC. I then decided to make her a Battle Master, because that somehow became my go-to fighter class for generals and characters that are good at fighting, I guess. So this class comes with the combat superiority, where you get different fighting maneuvers, and you use your superiority dice to use them. You expend them by using maneuvers and regain them after a long or short rest. Some maneuvers may need the enemy to do a saving throw, and you can calculate that with this equation. That's really the major basis of the Battlemaster subclass, and I'll explain the maneuvers I gave later on. For now, she also gets proficiency in 1 type of artisan tool, and now I can explain the maneuvers. First up, I gave her the disarming attack, which, though it's very different, reminded me of her technique where she can send enemies into a whirlwind and prevent them from attacking. Different yet similar principle. I then gave her evasive footwork, since she's a speedy character and I can see her dodging attacks in combat. Then I also gave her menacing attack. Let's be fair, her enemies are terrified of her. She's a Shenzhou general after all, hunting down her enemies with ease with a speed unmatched. For her ability scores, her dexterity is obviously her highest, then intelligence and constitution. Then it should be her charisma and then wisdom and strength, whichever you feel is better for your build and what do you want to be the lowest. Next up is her background. I quickly chose soldier for her. She's the Merlin's Claw and one of the 7 Arbiter generals after all. I could have gone with a different background for her, but I liked the proficiencies that came with the soldier background. It just uses abilities that Feixiao is naturally gifted in. For her feat, I went with mobile because she's a speedy character. The feat increases her speed by 10 feet, and difficult terrain no longer affects her when she dashes. And when you use a melee attack on a creature, you don't provoke an opportunity attack for the rest of that turn, even if you miss. It's quite useful, especially for a dexterity-based character. For languages, I gave her Draconic because of the Vidyadhara on the Shenzhou. I'd like to think that she would have picked up that language at some point when interacting with them. As for proficiencies, I'll start with the tools and the gaming set first. I gave her proficiency in smithing tools because she's a part of the Shenzhou Alliance, and smithing is a major part of their culture. I then gave her proficiency in dragon chess, cause I am pretending that it's Shang-Chi, and seeing her and Jingyuan playing it is just something that I thought would be interesting. As for skill proficiencies, I gave her history for the knowledge she gained as a general, survival for what she went through when she was young, and acrobatics because she's quick. Okay, so she doesn't have any magical abilities, so let's go to equipment. I would recommend giving her medium or light armor, as well as 2 swords of any kind you wish. I personally went with scimitar because I thought it would look cool on her, and I also added a great axe. She has proficiency in it, so you don't have to worry about that. And after all of that, here is her backstory. Feixiao. She really is something, isn't she? We can actually make a really interesting and tragic story for her, without changing too much. I've done my best anyway. Here it is. What an unlucky child. She had always been different from others around her. Something about her always seemed wrong. I smell it. I smell a chance for us to escape tonight, she whispered to her friend who was trembling next to her. Saran, the bodies of the others are still hanging on the gates. The girl replied back, tears still in her eyes. No, you don't understand. Tonight is different. Her friend looked at her, but the young girl simply looked away, her eyes looking up towards the evening clouds that painted the world a vivid orange and purple. Tonight they are going to be shooting stars. There was blood in the air. She could smell it. She saw the tracks they left behind. She could hear the howls of the creatures surrounding her. 3 to her left, 5 to her right. She clung to the body that had already grown cold as she looked up towards the sky, trying to spot them. Where were they? Where were the stars she was looking for? Before they reached her, a bolt of light shot out from behind her, and the little girl ducked as the radiance blinded the hunters and sent them scattering into the darkness again. A gentle hand landed on her shoulder, and she turned to see the knight cloaked in shimmering armor, standing behind her, concerned. She looked like her, but she knew that the knight could tell something was different about her compared to the others who had come to surround them. They took her in, even though they couldn't save the friend she had tried so hard to keep with her. Her wounds were too great, and she wouldn't want her to suffer any longer either. She lived in the barracks, training, learning, agonizing over the smallest details about battle strategies, until she could be on par with the knight that had saved her all those years ago. Haven't you seen her? She doesn't have a tail. She heard one of the soldiers whispering to the other. Is she natural? I heard she was kept by those wolves. It's a shame. Another replied back in agreement. I saw her moon rage once. I was going to wet myself if she didn't recognize anyone, yet another added in a panicked voice. But if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have been able to win this time. A more stoic sounding voice added. Moon rage, that's what they've been calling it. On rare days, when she could rest, she would gaze up towards the night sky for hours, staring at the stars, wondering if she could spot a shooting star. The night that she promised her friend that they would light the night sky as they escaped to their freedom. She was unlucky, but she knew the role she needed to play in such a battle. Before her life comes to an end, she will hunt down the nemesis until the last one is rid from their world. The day when there are no more moon rages within their realm. The day when the stars no longer fall from the sky. The day when the arrow finally pierces her own heart. And that's the story I wrote for Feixiao. A tale that went from Borisons to lycanthropy instead. It works. I hope it works. I'm trying, okay. But yeah, just a tiny little shift in the story and it works wonders for a D&D character. I tried my best at the very least, and I hope you guys found it entertaining. But either way, thanks for watching guys. Like and subscribe if you like, and I hope to see you all again next time. Take care.